Sherry from Storehouse Media. Sherry, how are you? I know you're excited about our guest.
I am. I Thanks for having me. I am doing great, and I am excited about Christine because of her accomplishments and what she's doing for the community.
All right, awesome. All right, so introduce our so talk about a little bit
Yeah.
about Christine and we'll get started.
Well, Christine Gilborn, she is a God-loving special needs mom, advocate, and writer, and she's been a disability advocate for 18 years because she has a son who has autism. But she does, it's not just about autism, right, Christine? I mean, you do
No, it's
other
not.
special needs. Yeah,
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 yeah. Sensory Friends, the website that I've created, is not disability specific. So it's really about advocating for the disability community as a whole.
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. And I, being a mom of a special needs child who's blind, it totally resonates with me, and what you're doing, and so much
Thank you.
appreciated because when you're in that position, you're thinking to yourself, where do I go? Who
Mm,
can I reach out to? You can just keep shooting in the dark and never reach anything, but that's what you're about, right?
absolutely, absolutely. Uh, Having gone through that experience, as you know, going through a diagnosis when you're a parent and your child first gets a diagnosis, whatever that may be, it presents a different path that we weren't expecting. And even though back in 2002, when my son was diagnosed at 2.5 years old, and we had less resources then. The internet was not yet exploded yet. If you remember, we had dial-up, AOL. You didn't have access to the resources you have today, but even still, the diagnosis is an overwhelming experience. And being able to speak to other parents who've been there, being able to have that guidance instead of having to navigate that process by yourself, is also overwhelming. And it's a good feeling to be able to reach out and help families to access the information they need.
And I think it's so important to be able to access that information. When you first had the diagnosis, where did you go find certain things? Specifically enough, I was working as a teacher and then got really interested in the autism community, so that and was becoming more of like an advocate. And that's when I worked as a TSS, I started reading lots of books on autism and learned different
Mm.
ways of learning and different things like that. And that was back in, I think, like 2013. So you're looking at a
Mm.
different, so
Oh,
still
yeah.
there wasn't all that information that's out there today, but kind of go into what you did.
Well, in 2000, Richie was diagnosed, and actually he was born in 2002, diagnosed in 2004. Not much of a big difference. But I was handed a packet. Diagnosis for autism is only done by observation only, still is today. And at that time, I was handed a thin packet of information to choose, going into the early intervention process and having to choose from different therapists and navigate by myself. I had no idea what this list of agencies was going to do for my kid. I had no idea about anything. Learning about that process and the special education process was harrowing and scary. I mean, I'm sure, just like many other parents, cried myself to sleep that night, but then got busy the next day. In fact, that was my motto in 2004. Get busy, Christine. I remember writing it on sticky notes and putting it everywhere, on my computer, on my mirrors, everywhere, so that I was always thinking, I need to do something productive. Thinking about that now, I would advise parents to pace yourself. The information and the research will always be there, but to remember to get rest. You're no good to anybody if you make yourself sick and anxious, and the research will be there. But even still today, thank goodness, there's a lot more information, a lot more we know about where to go, what to do, and diagnosis and detection is done much earlier now than just 2 to 3 years old, which is a wonderful thing. So that's a big significant difference from way back then.
Well, it's so overwhelming. I mean, people there are like, oh, go here, go there, go there. And you're sitting going like, where do I start?
Right.
It was overwhelming. And then because you're kind of like a deer caught in the headlights,
Mhm.
then you feel like you're a bad mom. Like, oh my gosh, I should be doing something. And you don't know, so I think the Sensory Friends is so important in what you're doing and reaching out and taking people's hands. And you talk about the positive behavior support planning system. You talk about that a lot. And that seems to be a very important part of your program. Tell us about that.
Well, a lot of what I do is bring up a lot of information that I had to go through, right? Processes and experiences that I had to go through myself. So positive behavior support experience was being blessed by having had some of the greatest professionals in the country. Dr. Mimi Heineman was one of them, who taught me a great deal about how to approach challenging behavior. And that's across all disabilities, right? And that's even for children without disabilities, how to address behavior correctly so that we're not reinforcing tough behavior or challenging behavior, but then how do we introduce new skills in addition? And these were things that I was taught that was able to help uh, improve Richie's quality of life and the quality of life of our overall family. So with the help of experts, I was able to write a blog series on the positive behavior support process that includes the data sheets that we used, that includes resources and information parents can access, so that even if they don't get the appropriate help from whatever schools they're going through from staff and faculty, but they'll be able to maybe even implement the process themselves at home. So that's the overarching goal for me as a parent is to be able to provide meaningful and useful information to other families that they don't always access, and that can help them navigate these processes, special education, community involvement, transitioning into adulthood, all of these phases that I've already gone through, and still continue to go through and still learn, because I'm not stopping from learning. I'm still learning along the way with them. But hopefully trying to make that process a little bit easier, and now Sensory Friends has graduated into developing a directory, which we are hopefully launching soon, about disability friendly and sensory friendly businesses, recreational activities. Parents would be given the opportunity to go in there, review schools, and share that information with other families. Review restaurants, review other places, and say, this is a disability friendly place. This is the go-to place for our families and our kids, and where we can be comfortable. So we got to get them out there. We got to get our families out there in the community, participating as equal, citizens, and level that playing field so that they have access. That's a big deal, and that they're inclusive, that we create inclusive communities. So that's what we're up to now, in addition to writing books and doing so much. So it's exciting times.
Now, Christine, when you talk about where area of the country is this all going out to, your organization?
So it's a website online. So it's essentially anyone can access this information and join. So that is the overall goal, is to make this global. Of course, with the central focus here in the States, and then moving forward and outward, any business that advertises as a serving, being able to serve and target a amazing community of people who have been historically underserved and forgotten, in terms of targeting as patrons and people who we can sell to and serve and things like this. And that's what this business is all about, being able to make sure that families have access, individual self-advocates, as well as businesses realize, this is a community of people, we want to get in here. How do we do that? How do we make it so that we can welcome the disability community and make our business and services accessible to them? So that's the directory part of it.
Absolutely. I heard the word writing, and of course my ears perk up because that's my industry, right? Books.
Yes.
And that's actually how we met, you and I.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you reached out because you were publishing your second children's book.
Yes.
So my question is you love to write. Somehow, some point in your life that started, what got you into writing? What created, and then you decide you're going to do multiple children's books.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, I've always loved to write. My first hint of that is I was 9 years old when my mother bought me a typewriter many, many, many years ago. And I drove her nuts because it was to click, 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 click. This was the loud typewriters back then. I'm dating myself, but I drove her nuts. And one day it just disappeared. It wasn't. But I knew that I had a love of storytelling from back then. And being a parent, a special needs parent, I knew that I had a lot of storytelling to go. And so the blog was created at first. And that was an outlet for me to share meaningful information that was essential and important to the disability community and other parents of children with autism. And then I went on to deciding I love to write children books to children understand and get them when they're young so that they can better relate to kids that are different, so that we can help them to understand about being accepting and helping. And what does that look like? So the first book was God, Can You Hear My Non-Speaking Voice? Because I had my son is he's non-speaking, but he's got some language in him. So he does have about 100 words that he can't say effectively with others. But I knew that even though I am strong in my faith, it was very difficult for me to maintain that cultural part of my life because of challenging behavior. We weren't able to do that. So, but I knew that didn't need to necessarily stop me from praying with him. And so I wrote that book. And after working with Richie for a couple years, he can today recite the Lord's Prayer very well. And you can understand it. And it's a magical thing at night when I pray with him, and to hear him, it's still a wondrous experience for me, and to know that. And I wanted to share that in some way with other families, that you can still practice your faith, whatever that faith is, and still teach your child and to always presume competence in our kids. Make no mistake.
I
They
love that.
understand what's going on around them and what's going on. We always have to presume competence, even when we're not sure. And like I said, he learned the Lord's Prayer, can say it, recite it perfectly. And it's exciting to hear him say it. And I wanted to share that experience with other families. And that's how that book came to be. And then the second book was, of course, working with you, which I've had the pleasure of working with you and your team, who are absolutely amazing in getting this off the ground. And I'm so proud and excited of the project and thankful to you and your team as well. And that was The Rabbit in the Window, which is a story about autism, about a rabbit who hides behind this window shade as he sees two other forest animals coming to explore the toys he built that are left outside of his carrot house. And it's just an amazing story about how he's at first reluctant to make friends. And of course, the rabbit is named Richie after my son. And but eventually he does. And the story teaches children that even though you have differences in the way you communicate and the way you learn, but that doesn't change that the fact that there's still laughter and fun to be had as friends. So I love that story, and that kicks off a series of other stories that are going to be just like that one. So I've got a duck that's named Darla with Down syndrome.
Oh, that's
A
fantastic.
tiger with
Yeah.
a tiger with Tourette syndrome, Tammy's tics, so there's going to be a series of children's books to follow that teaches children about these differences, disabilities, and how they could still be friends, have fun. It's just going to look different. And that's what I tell parents too when they're first experiencing that diagnosis. Think different, not less, different.
Okay. Now you were talking about Sherry and Storehouse Media Group, the team. What did you really enjoy about the process? Especially this is your first book published by her.
I enjoyed being able to have immediate access whenever I needed information from them. I enjoyed the level of expertise and professionalism they exhibited throughout the entire process. Very knowledgeable people. Just any question I had was immediately answered and addressed. And they covered every single thing and taught me along about the process as well, which is incredibly instrumental as someone who's first entering the publishing scene, and is I'm going to speak for myself, clueless, about that entire process. And it was comforting, reassuring, to be able to work with a team that is knowledgeable and professional and got it done, just got everything done. And so that has been it's been an exciting and positive experience. And that doesn't always happen for people who are coming into the publishing industry.
Yeah, that's for sure. And that's really why we got into it. My team is because, we wanted to make sure writing a book is very intimate and people get excited and we wanted to make sure that they weren't exploited and that they got they were able to achieve their dream of writing a book and having a good quality book, right? If you're going to do
Yes.
it, let's do it right, But it was a pleasure working with you too. We love working with you. You're just
Thank
great.
you.
And we're looking forward to future projects with you.
Yes.
The illustrations in The Rabbit in the Window, oh my gosh, so adorable. So adorable.
Thank
They
you. I thought so
absolutely were.
too. There.
Yeah.
I'm lucky to have this incredible illustrator. And one of the greatest things that I'm noticing about these projects that I'm working on is that people are excited about getting involved in a project that gives back to a community. I think that's what excites people. So I've been blessed with some fantastic professionals who get it, get the message, get how important this is, and they just get involved and they're excited about it. It's one thing to work with people who are just doing a job. It's another to work with people who are excited about your project as you are. And that makes all the difference.
All right. Well, so it's already available. What I think it's so great. You've been really reaching out to the autism community about this as well, especially autism, to get
Yes.
as many organizations as possible to know about the book.
Yes, we're definitely, I'm going into marketing strong. I appreciate you bringing me onto the show, Neil, to get the word out there as well about the rabbit in the window. But we're pushing it. I'm working with schools. I'm working with a lot of different members in the community. I've been in the autism community in the education system. So I've got, some folks that I'm hoping pull an interest in this and really get the word out and the book into children's hands, and other families' hands. And so that's the goal right now.
Fantastic. All right. Where can people find you? The best place and all that stuff.
So the website is www.sensoryfriends.com. That's where people can find me there. My email is Christine@sensoryfriends.com, as well as I'm on, my handles are the same, Sensory Friends, for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And anyone who is interested in reaching out for information on any topic disability related, the directory is also accessible through the main site as well, as for those who are interested in more information on that. The books are on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. They pretty much can be found anywhere on there. There's links on my site as well to purchasing the books online if you wanted to. So they're easy to find. You type in the name and you'll be able to find it. So I'm really excited to share this with all of you. And I thank you so much for having me on the show and getting me to help and really reach families and people who could use this.
All right. Well, fantastic. Thanks again.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. All right. That was a
Thank you.
special. And go to storehousemediagroup.com to find out more information about Sherry and how has a concept that's going to be amazing, taking your idea all the way to the movies. So appreciate it, Sherry. Thanks again.
Yes.
All right. That was a special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and the Storehouse Media Group podcast.